Papaya Rules. The most recent rivalry on this list. Newly minted F1 fans are well acquainted with the words Papaya Rules, but for those who aren't, it's the order given by the McLaren paddock to their drivers Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri as a signal for them to compete against each other freely, albeit in a careful and incident-free manner. The Papaya tag owes itself to the livery of the McLaren cars that resemble the colour of the aforementioned fruit and has gained popularity across the F1 fan base.
The Papaya Rules are, it's your teammate, race them hard, race them clean, don't touch.
The Papaya Rules order came to the public's knowledge when McLaren boss Zak Brown shared it to the press at the conclusion of the 2024 Italian Grand Prix.
Made out about Papaya Rules, and then what there actually is, it is literally one rule, which is don't crash into each other.
Norris further discussed it in an interview in 2025 that it was a real document with guidelines that both drivers should follow to keep them from clashing on the track in high-pressure battles. Although this has been honoured so far, it would be interesting to see if Norris or Piastri would honour the orders, given that the Brit is just a point to the good ahead of the Aussie, with just 4 races left in this year's World Championship campaign. Their battle is overshadowed by off-track drama, with both sets of fans accusing the team of disrespecting, even sabotaging their favourite driver. In Canada, the pair had their first bigger collision, with Norris fully to blame for the incident. Austria gave us probably the best fight between the two, but even when they were not going wheel to wheel, tensions in the McLaren team are high. Whoever comes out on top will win their first ever Drivers' Championship. The Silver War. Now, one of the most bitter rivalries in modern day Formula 1, the Silver War, involved former best friends Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg, as the two men clashed for the Drivers' Championship in the 2010s. The Silver War tag was a nod to Mercedes' Silver Arrows moniker, as the cars they raced on used to be of the colour before it switched to black in the 2020s. It all started out as a reunion in 2013, as Hamilton departed McLaren for the Mercedes Works team to join his childhood friend Nico Rosberg. The tension started brewing at the 2014 Bahrain Grand Prix when Rosberg was discovered to have used banned engine modes to finish just behind Hamilton in second. However, the Monaco Grand Prix was the main event, which broke each other's trust. In qualifying, Nico Rosberg went off the Mirabeau corner, causing a yellow flag that secured him the pole position. Even though it was never proven, many experts and fans believe this was done intentionally, since being on pole at Monaco almost guarantees you the win. At the Belgian Grand Prix the same year, Rosberg then slammed Hamilton's car, causing him a right-left puncture. Rosberg received a chorus of boos on the podium, while his teammate did not finish the race. Drama would further surround the two up to the 2015 United States Grand Prix, when Hamilton raced Rosberg wide, leading to the latter surrendering the top spot. At the conclusion of the race, Hamilton was seen tossing the second-place Pirelli cap for Rosberg to wear, only for the German to toss it back angrily. Perhaps the most memorable point in the feud, however, was the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix when the two collided in the very first lap as Hamilton was forced into the grass coming out of turn 3 and then pummeled into Rosberg's car as it went out of control. The two cars effectively eliminated each other from the race, paving the way for young Max Verstappen to take his maiden F1 win. In total, Hamilton won 32 races with 55 podiums and 2 drivers' titles, while Rosberg recorded 22 race wins with 50 podiums and claimed 1 drivers' championship across the 4-year rivalry. It would then abruptly end at the conclusion of the 2016 season after Rosberg announced his retirement from the sport after claiming his first driver's title. Multi 21. Now, during Red Bull's first dominant run in the early 2010s, young gun and multi-time champion Sebastian Vettel and teammate Mark Webber butted heads as the team rolled over the sport. During the 2010 season, both were matching each side stride for stride. After the Monaco Grand Prix, both Red Bull cars sat at the front with 78 points each, with the only difference being 1 more win for Mark Webber. Shortly after, at the Turkish Grand Prix, things got hairy. While fighting for P1, both cars made contact at around 300 km per hour, sending Vettel into a spin and into retirement. Webber continued, but the team lost an almost certain 1-2 finish to McLaren. And a few weeks later at Silverstone, Webber said the famous words,
"Fantastic guys, not bad for a number 2 driver."
Not bad for a number 2 driver, after winning the British Grand Prix. Why, you may ask? Well, on Saturday, team boss Christian Horner ordered the mechanics to give Webber's updated front wing to teammate Sebastian Vettel. Webber now felt like he not only competed against Alonso, Button, Hamilton and Vettel in the championship, but also against his own team. However, he would stay in front of Vettel in the drivers' standing until the very last race, where the German came in clutch to claim the first of his 4 world titles. Another noteworthy incident came at the 2013 Malaysian Grand Prix, when the Red Bull paddock passed on a message to Vettel with the words Multi-21. Due to teams having different codes for orders, many theorised what those magical words meant. It then came to light that Multi-21 meant that the number 1 driver Vettel was ordered to stay behind the number 2 driver Webber to ensure a smooth 1-2 finish for the duo. However, the German driver violated this by overtaking Webber in the final laps and claiming the race victory. Senna versus Prost. Fueled by excellence and the desire to win, the Senna-Prost rivalry has been one of the most talked about phases in F1 history. The rivalry peaked when the pair drove for McLaren in 1988 and 1989. The duo clinched 25 wins out of the available 32 races from the 2 seasons, as Senna led Prost in race victories, 14-11 and 26-4 in poles. The rivalry featured 2 separate incidents at the Suzuka circuit in 89 and 90. In 1989, neither driver gave away as they collided with Prost just 7 laps away from claiming the title. However, it was all for naught, as Prost was not able to finish the race while Senna got going again before being disqualified from the race. Due to the incident, Prost barely hung onto the title as Senna finished second. Senna's disqualification was extremely controversial, with Senna himself even suggesting that Jean-Marie Balestre, president of the FISA at that point, deliberately excluded the Brazilian from the results to help his fellow Frenchman clinch the title. Others fans claim that Prost turned in way too early with the only goal to crash into Senna. However, none of these speculations changed the fact that Prost was crowned champion. At that, the relationship between those two was at the lowest point imaginable. After Prost jumped ships to Ferrari in 1990, Senna made sure that he would return the favour as the tables were turned and the Brazilian legend leading on points ahead of the Suzuka race. On the very first lap, Senna dove onto Prost's McLaren as the 2 drivers were eliminated from the race. Senna would win the 1990 title by 7 points against his bitter rival. Although they got entangled on the track on multiple occasions, both men had been amicable and treated each other with respect as rivals. Prost even acted as one of the pallbearers at Senna's funeral after his fatal crash in 1994. Villeneuve and Pironi. One of the most infamous rivalries in F1 history met a grim ending as teammates Gilles Villeneuve and Didier Pironi's rift ultimately met an unfortunate end for one of the drivers. Then driving for Ferrari, Villeneuve and Pironi were cruising 1 and 2 at the 1982 San Marino Grand Prix after the Renaults of René Arnoux and Alain Prost encountered failures. As the orders came for the 2 drivers to slow down to preserve the cars, Villeneuve thought that both drivers would hold position until the checkered flag. However, Pironi then passed the Canadian driver, who thought that the Frenchman was just being playful as they were cruising to a victory. Villeneuve then repassed Pironi before the latter snatched the victory away in the dying stages. An irritated Villeneuve then stated after the race that he will never speak to Pironi again in his life. The chilling words would actually come true, as in the following race in Belgium, Villeneuve would die in the final qualifying session after his car hit Jochen Mass's vehicle and was vaulted into the air at an estimated speed of 200 km per hour at a height of about 100 meters before nosediving and disintegrating. The Canadian was then thrown a further 50 meters from the wreck to a catch fence at Circuit Zolder's Tellermann-Bocht corner. Just a few months later, Didier Pironi's F1 career also came to an abrupt end when he broke his legs in a horrendous crash during the warm-up for the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim. He died in 1987 in a boat racing accident. Hamilton versus Alonso. Although it peaked for just 1 year, the Lewis Hamilton versus Fernando Alonso rivalry captured the attention of racing fans that's still being talked about to this day. Although they're the elder statesmen in today's Formula 1, both drivers were way different back in 2007 as they pulled out all the stops and shenanigans to prevent one another from capturing the Drivers' Championship. Reigning back-to-back champion Fernando Alonso made his way to McLaren after 2 productive seasons with Renault in hopes of claiming a 3rd straight title. Although many thought it would be a cakewalk given the capabilities of the car, no one thought that Alonso's biggest hurdle would be rookie teammate Lewis Hamilton. The upstart impressed early on after finishing on the podium in his first 9 races. The first symptom of friction would then come in Monaco, after Hamilton was ordered to hold position to secure a 1-2 victory. The young Brit was then visibly upset and made the impression that Alonso was being given preference on the team. At the Hungaroring, Alonso then deliberately delayed his pit stop to prevent Hamilton from having ample time to making a flying lap. The Spaniard would be penalised by the FIA with a 5-place grid penalty due to his shenanigans. As if team turmoil wasn't enough, McLaren would then be involved in the Spygate scandal, wherein they face accusations of having confidential data from the Ferrari team. Alonso then threatened to bring about the public internal emails unless he would be favoured as the team's #1 driver. The team would then be penalised a mind-boggling $100 million and was disqualified from that year's Constructors' Championship. Then in the final race in Brazil, the two drivers will ultimately lose the Driver Championship as Kimi Raikkonen won the race and the season title by just 1 point over the McLaren pair, as he became the latest Ferrari F1 champion to date. Due to the numerous scuffles, Alonso signed back with Renault for 2008, while Hamilton was paired up with Heikki Kovalainen. Mansell versus Piquet. The competition between Nigel Mansell and Nelson Piquet at Williams Honda during the 1986 and 1987 Formula One seasons is regarded as one of the most fierce intra-team rivalries in motorsport history. Known as the Tortoise, Piquet, versus the Hare, Mansell, the two men incurred a total of 3 world titles between them, albeit employing different racing styles. Piquet, a 2-time world champion upon his arrival at Williams, expected unequivocal leadership within the team. Nevertheless, he quickly faced significant opposition from Mansell, whose assertive driving style and standing as a national icon in Britain rendered him both esteemed and formidable. The discord between them rapidly transcended the racetrack, with Piquet employing public disparagement and media manipulation to undermine his colleague, while Mansell countered with on-track resistance. Nigel Mansell and Nelson Piquet both proved to be reliable race winners for Williams Honda during the 1986 Formula One season, frequently facing off against one another in the quest for the championship. When Piquet publicly denigrated Mansell, calling him an uneducated blockhead, and made derogatory comments about Mansell's wife, their antagonism grew more intense, and the team's cohesiveness was shattered. When Mansell's catastrophic tyre failure cost him the world title in the 1986 Australian Grand Prix, the anxiety reached its peak. Alain Prost was able to win the championship as Piquet was forced to pit for new tyres shortly after. Even though Williams proved the car's technological supremacy, the team's overall success was hampered by internal competition and declining driver collaboration. The rivalry persisted into the 1987 season, when Mansell continued to enthrall fans with his aggressive and risk-taking style, while Piquet took a more methodical and planned approach, emphasizing consistency over pure speed. The two continued to engage in psychological warfare throughout the season until Mansell's career was prematurely interrupted by a serious crash during practice for the Japanese Grand Prix, thus securing Piquet's 3rd World Championship. The collaboration ended at the end of the season, and Piquet moved to Lotus for 1988. Even though Williams made significant technical advancements during their time together, the psychological stress and internal strife that marked the Mansell-Piquet rivalry had a significant impact on later team management theories and highlighted the difficulties of preserving cohesion within a team with two elite rivals. Now, if you enjoyed this video, you may also want to watch this video next. Here we talk about the different levels of all racing drivers across the world. Have fun, and we'll see you soon.